mentioned learning styles earlier, and our belief is that all the channels are important because there's more efficient ways of learning certain things. Like cutting hair, for instance. You can watch something about cutting hair, you can hear a lecture on cutting hair, but until you really get in there and start cutting hair, use your tactile system, you're not going to learn about cutting hair well. The same thing goes with your visual. There's only one way to take in a sunset, and that is visually. You can't hear it, you can't feel it. Well, the same thing happens with some of our academics. So if you've got children that you're dealing with that are having trouble with academics, this is one example. So we've got a math process we believe is better visual. Like if you're doing long division, you could talk and talk and talk about long division, which we usually do. And the kids just, their eyes glaze over, because they're going, I know your mouth is moving, Mom, but I have no idea what you're saying. But if we just break it down and say small things like divide, record, multiply, subtract, bring down, and then we do that over and over while we're visually showing them how to do this problem, and we do 2 or 3 of those, then they're able to do it much easier, a lot less stress. So visual math processes, what is addition, what is subtraction, multiplication, division, that's more a visual thing coming in visually. But and then we if your child is having trouble with that, we do have something called visual circle math that can help show them visually what math is with just a few words. You can see on this script, it's a few words that are underlined and in quotes. That's all you say. So it guides you through how to get them quickly caught up in math processes. It's not a math curriculum, but it does show them how to get caught up in operations instead of, sometimes people feel like, well, they're at 3rd grade math, so they have to go all the way through a 3rd grade math curriculum, which is really not true, because in 4th grade, they're going to review all those other things that they did, the temperature and money and all of that kind of thing. They're going to review that the next year anyway. So there's ways to get them caught up quickly. Now, there are things that come in better auditorily, and we believe that is the math facts. Math facts are typically, if you say something like 5 plus 4, you hear 9 as a general rule. So what we do in our society is the exact opposite of that. We hold up these magic cards. I call them magic cards because we expect something to happen because we have this card held up, right? Well, if it's not in there, it's not going to come out good. So I created something where the child sees, hears, says, and writes 5 math facts 14 times in one day. And that's only 6, it only takes 6 minutes, like a minute here, 2 minutes here, a minute here, 2 minutes here. And after a week, it's using that frequency, intensity, and duration to really get that information in. We had this teacher, this 1st grade teacher. She said, I've been teaching 17 years, and math facts are always a hard thing for my kids. In fact, math is just a hard thing. And so she said, I want to use your program. So she did some of the brain organization, the lower level brain organization, the short-term memory things, and she used the rapid recall in her classroom. And she said, never in my 18 years have I seen so many kids that, she said, I've never seen them ask for math homework before, and they're wanting to take a math test. She said it's really, really a different year. So what we did was some research in that school. There were 4 classes of 1st grade, and they all used the same state adopted curriculum. And this blue, where you see the red line, the little blue for each class, is where they tested when we first started. And then the one on the right added the rapid recall. So it's really working well. So if you have someone that, needs some help with that, that is always helpful as well. Now that we talked a little bit, about receiving information auditorily and visually, it can be a challenge getting information in. Like if they're not seeing correctly, if their vision isn't working right in the center, their central detail vision, or if they can't track their eyes across or converge. Sometimes you see a child being clumsy, and it's because they're not seeing correctly, or they're struggling with reading because they go along and then they just, their eyes flip back and they're seeing part of the word twice. And so that causes trouble with reading. So when there's a child that's struggling with reading, we always look at their eyes to see if they're getting the right information. And then most of the time, they've already gone to an eye doctor to check that acuity to see if that's working. So another part of that foundation is the processing. This is your short-term memory. This is something that I see that's a challenge in our whole society. And I believe that it's a lot of the reason why we've got so many children labeled. And that is their short-term memory, especially their auditory short-term memory, is not working well. Now, parents that when their child has problems with this short-term memory, they say, why can't my child follow directions? They think it's a discipline thing, when it's really the child can't hold those pieces together to do it. So an otherwise compliant child is always in trouble because they can't follow directions. Why can't they remember to do their chores? And they wonder if it's rebellion. It's really this auditory processing affects them globally. It affects their behavior. Oftentimes they act like a younger child, so they don't act their age. We already talked about following directions. They can't hold the information to comprehend what is read or heard. They can't do conceptual thinking, that big picture. And so they often do what I would call impulsive kind of things, where they just do things and you go, what were you thinking? Well, they weren't. They didn't see the big picture. So the cause and effect wasn't there. Conversational language is affected. Oftentimes they interrupt because they want to tell you right now, or they'll forget because of this low processing. They have trouble attending, staying on task. And I think if you're in the profession of education or a homeschool parent, you recognize these things as symptoms of ADD and ADHD. So what we've seen is many times, I worked with one kiddo that was 14 when he started on a program with us, and he had been on Ritalin for 5 years and not able to function without it. And in 9 months, he was off his medication and never had to have it again. So that was really life-changing for him. I see there's some things coming in the chat, and we'll look at that at the end, okay? I did want to let you know about this test kit. There's a free test kit on the brainsprints.com website. So if you scroll down to where it says tools, so just go to brainsprints.com and it'll say tools, and that's a free test kit. You can register for that. It'll just email you the test kit, and you can check your family members at home. I've even had moms and dads that have tested each other. And it's been very helpful and insightful for them in their marriage, because they were having so much struggle communicating that they didn't understand what was really happening there. But when you get a better perspective, then it really changes things for you. The visual processing difficulties, when they're little, they have trouble remembering their numbers and their letters and words. But when they're older, it just affects everything: their math, their spelling, their reading, visual attention, picking up visual information, and eye contact oftentimes as well. So I'm not giving you a lot of solutions right now for these. I'm just trying to bring your awareness up on where some of these root causes are. But that's what we teach parents and professionals, is how to stimulate the brain to make those things not impactful.